welcome to Bambuddha Boost this morning. We're really happy to have you here again. Thank you for everyone who keeps coming back, and we hope it's giving you that little pick-me-up you need. Today we're really lucky to have one of our delivery partners and Game Changer members, Esther Colman, who's a fantastic HR extravaganza. She's got some beautiful tips and advice for us today, and she really wants to share some really good stuff around building core resilience. So I'm going to do what I do best, and I'm going to disappear. I'll be back again in 15 minutes with any questions for you, Esther.
Thank you, Anna. Well, morning, everyone, and let's get boosting. I love these boosts. I've been nearly on all of them, and I was delighted when Anna asked me to participate. So I was thinking what a good topic might be, and one of the areas that I've experienced a lot of in my 20 or so year HR career before I started my own business was this concept of resilience and well-being, and looking at well-being in the workplace and how you create productive workplaces and develop resilience. So I'm going to share with you a couple of models, none of which are my own. We'll look at what the concept of resilience is. We'll talk about the PERMA model of well-being, and then lastly, how to engage your resilience core, because resilience is like a muscle and we can build it up. So my first question for you, and feel free to pop something in the chat as we go along and we can make this interactive, is how's the ride? I think that image of a roller coaster adequately describes my ride at the moment. I go from feeling quite hopeful one day to feeling homesick for my family in the UK the next, to thinking my business is going to survive, to thinking, oh no, it's not. So it's really been a roller coaster ride. And I think if we focus on building our resilience through this time, we may be able to kind of flatten that ride out a little bit. So I've got a couple of questions for you next, and I would like you to be having a think and pop into the chat so we can have a little mini discussion around how you would define adversity and what does resilience mean to you. The reason I've put mountains up there is A, I'm an avid skier, love to ski. Mountain scenery is my favorite place to be, but also I have done a couple of courses on resilience and leadership, and they've often been in the format of comparing it with mountaineering. So climbing Everest and getting to the peak. So let's pop something in the chat if you've got a great definition of what either adversity or resilience means to you. And then I'll share what it means to me. Anyone want to share? Tough challenge. Yeah, for sure. Anything else? A challenging situation, ability to bounce back. I love that concept of resilience. And I know in my daughter's primary school, they had a great program called Bouncing Back, which was teaching resilience to kids in schools. So thanks for sharing that. My definition of adversity is really when something negatively affects or is predicted to affect something or someone you care about. And how much you care about that particular situation, I guess, is how adverse that might be. And resilience, I also said, Oksana, it's bouncing back. Martin's saying transcending, another great word. And it's the ability to kind of move from that survival mode to really being able to thrive. So you're not just surviving, coping or managing, you're thriving. And I'm sure a number of you may have heard of this model and the man who is really the founder of positive psychology, and his name is Martin Seligman. And he developed this model that looks at 5 areas of psychological well-being and happiness. And even if you've seen this model before, it's always good to have a little bit of a refresh. And while I'm talking through what each of these means, I'd challenge you to just think about, are there areas in this model that you need to be focusing on more than others at the moment to really manage your well-being? So positive emotion, and it's, you know, more than being an optimist, but having that positive view, looking at things from a constructive perspective. there are highs and lows, but not focusing on the lows and trying to see kind of glass half full. Engagement, and this is the tasks that you do or the things that you do in your life where you're really in flow. So I said I love skiing. Time stands still for me when I ski. Haven't had a chance to do it lately. But also another thing that I love to do is singing. So time just stands still. I love it. I'm completely in the flow. I'm completely engaged. And I've made a choice to increase those activities while we've been in this situation, so I can really get joy out of those things. Positive relationships. I'm quite an extrovert. I get my energy from other people, so being shut away in my office at home is a struggle, and really good supportive networks with other people can have a massive impact on our well-being. So it's about remaining connected to those relationships, and having strong emotional connection with others, whether they're your friends, your peers, your siblings, and providing support to others at difficult times. So some people in your relationships might be struggling, and how can you help them in terms of assisting them to be resilient? Meaning and purpose. I don't know if many of you have read the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most powerful books I've ever read. And that was all about how people who are able to survive the most horrific events, such as the Holocaust, the ones that were able to survive and thrive after that, ascribed some sort of meaning or purpose to their journey. And so it's around, why are we here? It doesn't necessarily have to be spiritually related, but what is my meaning? What is my purpose? What are some of my goals in life? And how is what I'm choosing to spend my time every day contributing to that meaning and purpose? And then lastly, Stedman talks about accomplishments and achievements. So what goals are you working towards? And maybe some of our goals have moved in this situation from longer term goals to short term goals. We're just looking at next week and then the week after. But also, what are some of the wins that you can talk about in terms of things that you've achieved, and really engaging those wins in your everyday life? I know as I sit around the dinner table, I've got 2 teenage children, and we developed this little routine where we all have to say our best bits of the day. And it's really insightful to hear what your kids' best bits are. Sometimes it is eating my meal, which is a miracle. But that's just a little thing that we can do as a family to celebrate our achievements. So, while I've been talking, it's just think about, are there areas of that 5 factors of well-being that you need to think about, that maybe you need to focus on to improve your overall well-being? We're going to move on to building core now. And I saw this and thought it was hilarious. And I know my personal trainer is on this call, so she will find this amusing too. And I remember when I was first asked to engage my core many years ago, and I started training with Andrea, I was like, what is the core? I don't even know what that is and how to engage it. So we're going to talk about engaging your resilience core today. And this concept comes from a great book that I have read with a forward by Stephen Covey. He's also fantastic. All around, it's got the mountain climbing, mountaineering analogy, and it's called The Adversity Advantage. So in this particular book, they talk about the elements of turning adversity into advantage and how we can build our core. And again, I think as we're going through this pandemic and times are tough, it's useful to focus on each element of this. So the first one is control. And to what extent do you believe you can influence what might happen next? Now, there's many things that are outside of our control at the moment, but what are some of the things we can control? And what are some of the things that we can influence? And if we're the type of person that tends to believe that lots of things are outside of our control and things happen to us, then we have a tendency to be less resilient. But focusing on what we can control is really useful. So I'd ask you, how much control are you feeling at the minute? What's in and outside of your control? And what are the things that you can really influence, either for yourself or somebody else? The second is ownership. So this is around to what extent are you stepping up or stepping back? And how can you step up to be the most positive influence in this situation? And I've seen this in spades among small business owners, among employees, among the community. So there's so many examples of people really taking ownership and deciding that they're going to make a positive difference where they can. The third element of the core is reach. So this is around to what extent are you going to let this adversity leach into other aspects or areas of your life. Sometimes when we're presented with a challenge, we can catastrophize and make statements, you know, this will never recover and it's affecting every aspect of my life. And so I'd ask you to think, what's the worst that can happen? And also what's the best that can happen? And 3 words that I wrote on my whiteboard at home during this was, what are the possible positive outcomes? And if we're always thinking about what are the possible positive outcomes, we're less likely to be thinking of those negative ones. So if you do let the extent of this adversity reach into every area of your life, then you're likely to be creating more stress for yourself, and to bounce back will require more energy and effort. And then last thing is the E is endurance. So it's the length of time that someone perceives that the adversity will endure. And I know with this pandemic, it's very difficult to work out how long we will be in this situation. So those with hope and some optimism and perseverance and tenacity will be able to endure through the length of the adverse situation. And another good thing to start thinking about now is, what do you want life to look like on the other side of this period of tough time? And what else can you be doing now to get there? I'll just share with you now something else that I have on my whiteboard that you can just see behind me in my office. And love him or hate him, this is from Tony Robbins, and it's around the triad of human emotions and how that influences our state and our mindset. And I know a great coach that talks about being in peak froth state. He thinks about a cappuccino. And so in the middle of my triangle, I've written peak froth. So this is around, firstly, your physiology. You know, are you sitting upright, or are you slouching? What is your body telling you? Are you eating healthily? Are you drinking enough water? Are you really connected with how your physical state is? I've just bought myself a sit-stand desk. So simply the motion of standing up for a little bit, sitting down, can really change my physiology, which can then in turn help me to focus. So, you know, where your focus goes, energy flows. That's what they say. And you need to just put the focus on the things that you want. So how do you maintain focus while we're on Zooms? We've got distractions, we've got kids homeschooling, we've got all these things that can distract us. So if you feel your focus wavering, then maybe go for a walk, do a gym session, take yourself away from the situation for a bit. I use a technique where if I really need to focus on a particular piece of work, I put a timer on for 40 minutes, and then when the timer goes off, I'll go away and make a cup of tea, 5 minutes, then put a timer on for another 40 minutes. And then lastly, something that can really help us with our mindset and our positive thinking is our language. So the words that we choose to communicate with others, but also the words that we're telling ourselves in the inner thoughts that go around in our head. And often we speak to ourselves in our head quite negatively and not how we would speak to other people. So that's around trying to reframe some of those thoughts. You know, if you're kicking yourself, oh, that was a stupid thing to do, or I didn't do very well there, and got all this negative language going around in your head, let's try and reframe that so we can make that more positive language. And once you start doing that for your inner thoughts, it will come out in your communication. This I love, and when I facilitated lots of training in my corporate life, I could incorporate this into any session that I was delivering. And I know Anna has shared this before as well through Bambuddha group. And and many people I know also have this on their fridge for their families. And this is around making a choice and the line of choice, and not dipping below that line into thinking and behaviours that aren't productive, but making a choice. I've been on the roller coaster. I've had days where I've been right below the line. I've been seeing problems and obstacles and excuses and been a bit stuck. And then I've made that choice to get myself above that line. Whether that's been calling a friend, speaking to my parents, taking responsibility, writing a list. So we always have a choice. And we have a pretty big global event going on right now, and we can all make a difference in the choice that we make in how to respond to that. This is a great thing to share with kids as well. So just wrapping up now, I'm conscious of time. We've got a couple of minutes left. But my top tips, firstly, it's about being more consciously aware. So aware of your thinking patterns, noticing when they may be spiraling down, aware of those human emotions, your physiology, your focus, your language that you're using. Secondly, and this is so true, no one size fits all. And I work with employers to work out how they can incorporate well-being into their workplaces, and it's really about finding things that fit for particular individuals. Thirdly, it's okay not to feel 100% of the time, and you know, don't beat yourself up. Sit with the feelings, work through them, and then hopefully bounce back. I have a saying that I say to my daughter regularly, sometimes at night if she's feeling a bit glum: tomorrow is a new day. And I really like that phrase. Be kind to yourself, and the way you're talking to yourself, look after yourself. So listen to your body. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling tired, frustrated, listen to yourself and your body. It'll tell you when you need to stop. Laughter, I think, is always the best medicine. I love a good joke. I love to laugh, and that's why I love Anna and Bambuddha, because she always does make me laugh, and it's not just her accent that makes me laugh. Staying connected, so connecting with our friends and family is so important, and often we don't want to do it when we're feeling a bit low, but they really are there and they want to help us through. And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you're not feeling well, if you're not okay. There's lots of support and resources out there for you. And then I'm just going to leave you with a quote, and there's like 1,000 quotes on resilience, but I really like this one from Sheryl Sandberg, because it talks about resilience like a muscle and ties in with the core theme. So you're not born with a fixed amount of resilience. Like a muscle, you can build it up, draw on it when you need it. In that process, you will figure out who you really are, and you just might become the very best version of yourself. So thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you to Anna for having me on The Boost, and I'm looking forward to all the boost next week.
Thank you so much, Esther. It's been such a pleasure, and I've loved getting to know you over the past year. You really do embody kindness in everything you do and all your interactions, and you make it look so easy as well. That's the thing I like the most about you, Esther, is you're very, very honest and humble. Has anybody got any questions for Esther this morning? Lots of love you're getting. That was great. That was a wonderful presentation. Thanks, Esther, for a practical presentation. So thank you so much, and we'll be able to share this video far and wide. So if you did miss this or any of this week's boosts, they'll all be up on our website under our kindness collection by tomorrow. So you'll be able to share them and watch them. We've got something to do over the weekend. We've got a juicy week coming up next week. We've got Carolyn Butler-Madden, and she's one of the best cause marketers here in Australia. And she's going to be looking at one of the challenges everyone's facing at the moment, which is how do we sell? Because it's not really appropriate to sell right now, you know. So looking at how you can be of service rather than selling. Then we've got Zarina Robertson, who is literally one of the best photographers. She photographs all of the big inspirational speakers. She's brilliant when it comes to positioning your personal brand. So that's a nice one you can tap into and learn a little bit while we've got this time around how you can best start using the basic things you've got, like your mobile phone and a bit of basic stuff to already start building upon your already, I'm sure, beautiful brands. Then we've got the lovely Nikki Beaumont, who is a beautiful human being, and she's going to be sharing some top tips next week around how people are the most powerful thing you've got at the moment and the most important thing you've got. And then I don't know if anybody saw Paul Dunn. He joined us last year. He is the director and chairman for B1G1, which is one of the biggest giving initiatives in the world for businesses to be able to support and empower and pull people out of poverty. So he is an incredibly inspirational guy. So tune in, and that's it for this week, although tomorrow we do have our cuddles. So if anyone isn't already in a cuddle, aka huddle, and they would like to be part of one, the really lovely thing we do each morning on a Friday is groups of between 8 to 10 leaders come together and support each other through this time. It's completely confidential. What goes on in a cuddle stays in the cuddle. And it's just a nice space for some peer-to-peer support. The aim is, if we just get through to the cuddle at the end of each week, tune in for your boosts. All of this change will be over in no time, and we'll be back to some beautiful impact in business and leadership. So look after yourself this weekend, and thank you once again to Esther. We'll give you a round of applause, and we'll see you all again next week. Lots of love. Take care.